You wake to the rhythm of tatami, under careful feet, a home that speaks in soft sounds, paper doors sliding, a kettle rising to a single note. Your family's crest hangs where morning light can find it, not as decoration, but as a reminder that you belong to something older than yourself. Order surrounds you. Sandals aligned, tools in their places, chores etched into memory as naturally as your name. Before arms, etiquette. You learn to bow with your spine long and your eyes lowered just enough to show care without losing your center. Words are weighed, posture is language, and silence carries meaning. Your elders teach you how to sit, how to rise, how to offer a cup with two hands, and how to leave no trace of haste in your movement. You're told that respect begins where pride steps aside. In the study room, Confucian lines sit beside walk-up poems you recite quietly, feeling their balance. Calligraphy lessons steady your hand. The brush demands patience and unbroken attention, each stroke proof that intent matters. Parables whisper simple truths, duty over desire, clarity over noise, and you repeat them until they feel like your own thoughts. Courage arrives in small acts. You tell the truth when it would be easier to bend it. You face the cold water in the morning without complaint. You accept correction without shrinking. No applause follows and none is expected. Courage, you learn, is a gate you pass through 100 times a day. Honor becomes a mirror you carry. You keep your robe clean, your speech plain, your promises intact. You refuse to speak well of yourself, letting your actions settle into the quiet where they're needed. When you make a mistake, you bow a little lower and fix what you can. Honor isn't a story others tell about you. It's the one you refuse to rewrite. Respect takes form in ritual. Tea for elders is poured without splash, the handle aligned for their comfort, your bow held long enough to show care, not long enough to turn into show. You wipe a tool before you put it away, because the next hands that touch it matter. You bow to the threshold of the training hall, to the teacher, and to the place itself, because places hold memory. Loyalty begins as a seed. The crest is explained, lines suggesting river and mountain, binding you to land and lineage. Stories of forebears are told not to sharpen pride, but to steady your step. An oath to your house is spoken once, then lived daily, where its weight is measured by how lightly you carry it. Your first martial lessons arrive. A bakken rests on your palms, and your mentor's eyes invite stillness. Stance, breath, footwork, each drilled until it replaces clumsiness with quiet certainty. You learn to return the wooden sword to its rack as if handing back responsibility. Impact is nothing without control. Control is nothing without kindness. A senior retainer becomes your measure. He models patience, never hurrying, never lingering, praising sparingly and precisely, correcting without sting. Under his gaze you discover excellence hides in details. The angle of a wrist, the timing of a step, the courtesy of resetting the mat. As your body lengthens and your stride grows sure, the lessons no longer feel borrowed. They press into you like a seal and into wax. Courage, honor, respect, and loyalty stop being rules at the edge of your life and begin to live at its center, ready for the road ahead. The dojo becomes the frame of your days. The wooden floor, marking time with the soft thud of feet and the quiet rasp of fabric. You enter with a bow to the space and to the teacher, and the room answers with its own discipline. Repetition shapes you. Katas unfold like long sentences, each phrase remembered by muscle and breath, each pause honoring the form. Practice armor absorbs honest mistakes without complaint, and you learn to thank the partner who exposes your gaps. Courage refines itself here. It isn't loud. It shows up again after failure, when pride would rather leave. You make an error, you acknowledge it, you try again with steadier hands. You ask a partner to correct you where you're blind, and you accept the note with a nod instead of a story. You discover that courage isn't the heat of a moment. It's the cool return, the willingness to stand back in the same place until your body tells the truth. Honor is measured in the way you carry credit. When the combination works, you point to your partner's timing. When a match turns in your favor, you bow the same depth you would in defeat. No audience is needed for integrity. In early hours, when no one is watching, you mend a frayed strap, polish a scuff from the rack, and leave the place a touch better than you found it. That quiet habit becomes the armor you rely on when pressure rises. Respect becomes visible in your hands. Weapons are not trophies, they're responsibilities. You learn the grain of wood and the edge of steel, the way oil lays a thin protective sheen, the way a cloth follows a curve without haste. You bow to the teacher before correction, but you also bow to the mat, the walls, the rhythm that holds your practice. Precision isn't vanity, it's gratitude expressed through care. Loyalty takes the shape of service. You carry letters to a steward without delay and return without detour. You run errands for the household, not to be seen, but to be relied upon. A small task done on time earns trust that grows into larger tasks. And trust, you notice, is built the way a bridge is built, piece by piece, tested by weight, strengthened by use. Your hands learn the language of the weapon set. The katana asks for respect in its care. The scabbard wiped and the blade oiled, the fitting seated with a soft click. With the yumi, the longbow, your breath must extend beyond the draw, the release a quiet decision rather than an impulse. The yari teaches reach and line, your stance rooted while your intent travels. The tanto insists on close control, the kind of attention that leaves no room for wandering thought. Horsemanship adds another mind to the work. Balance becomes a shared practice, reigns a conversation. You learn to ride without hard hands, to match the animal's rhythm, to be calm when the world around you leans toward noise. A steady seat, a quiet cue, a path chosen for footing rather than spectacle, these become your marks of skill. Strategy enters as study and as observation. You read Sunzi and local treatises, then walk terrain with the same questions open, where water gathers, where wind funnels, where supply finds or loses an hour. Weather stops being mood and becomes information. You learn that a map is a promise only if the ground agrees, and that a plan must leave room for the day to argue. Coming of age approaches with ritual and responsibility. In Genpuku, your attire changes, and with it, your visible place in the world. A name is adopted, and you feel it sit on your shoulders with a weight you accept. Duties widen. The bow you make to the household now includes your own readiness to be counted. A storm gives you a practical lesson. You're sent with a message across soaked fields and dark ridges, and the road offers two choices, speed for show or restraint for success. You choose the slower foot that keeps the horse sure, the path that holds in the rain, the timing that arrives intact instead of early and broken. The seal is delivered dry, the words unchanged. You bow, and no one needs to be told why you're wet. Courtly polish rounds the hard edges. You exchange poems that carry feeling without spill, pour tea with attention that reads the room, and guide an ink brush through characters that reveal your patience. Civility becomes another kind of armor, soft on the outside, firm underneath. By the time your adolescent strength steadies, purpose is set like cured lacquer. The virtues once taught as rules now move as your habits. You stand ready to serve openly, not because someone is watching, but because the path itself is clear under your feet. Office begins before sunrise, when ledgers open like quiet lakes and the ink waits for clear intention. You walk the storehouses with the steward, fingers brushing sealed baskets of rice, eyes on the marks that track grain owed and grain held. The scales tell their simple truth, so you test them, then test your own assumptions, and you ask farmers to speak first. Water channels are cleared by schedule, not by whim, because irrigation listens only to steady hands. Audits happen with doors open, notes taken calmly, corrections delivered without sting, and you leave each room lighter than you entered. Courage here avoids spectacle. A tax is adjusted downward when a flood has bitten the fields. You sign the order and accept the shortfall. A guard's mistake is yours to own in public and theirs to repair in private. When a traveling merchant complains loudly, you let the noise pass and answer the facts, even when the facts are narrow and inconvenient. The choice is rarely between glory and fear. It's between the easy path that erodes trust and the quiet step that preserves it for another day. Honor lives under pressure. A gift arrives with ribbon and suggestion, and you return it with a letter that thanks the sender while naming the rule you follow. An ally misjudges a situation. You correct them in a room with only 2 people in it, then reinforce their dignity when the door opens. Your seal touches paper only after your conscience has already agreed. When rumors reach for your name, you keep your posture unchanged and your record precise, letting actions stack until they speak by themselves. Respect moves both directions, and you hold it steady. You kneel to hear a farmer's grievance without rushing the story. You stand to give orders to the guard so they land clearly, and you drop your gaze when your lord addresses you, not out of fear but out of alignment. You write letters that fit the occasion and set the seal straight and match a gift to the tone of the day. In court, you bow long enough to acknowledge the other house, short enough to keep your own spine. Loyalty is tested when directives pull in different directions. One scroll leans toward speed, another toward caution. You choose the path that preserves both law and trust, and you accept the narrower road that takes longer but doesn't fray the fabric you'll need tomorrow. You remember your oath isn't tied to a mood. It's tied to the well-being of people who will never know your name, and you act as if their future sits in the corner of every room you enter. When tension rises at the border, you frame conflict gently. You write terms that leave no gaps for pride to fall through, and you appoint escorts that treat rivals as guests. On one evening patrol, lanterns catch anxious faces in a village lane. Weapons lower when your voice arrives first, naming each person with their role, not their fear. You listen, separate rumor from risk, and set a simple watch, then send everyone home. The night keeps its quiet, and nothing of value is broken. Diplomacy becomes its own practice. You learn that a bow can be too deep, that a gift can be too heavy, that a phrase can strike harder than a blade. You choose lacquerware that matches rank, tea that honors season, and phrasing that leaves room for the other side to exit with dignity. Your letters are firm without edge. Your seal lands clean, so the page carries meaning without threat. Legal duty brings you into rooms with grief and anger. You weigh testimony, notice what the hands say when the voices are still, and ask questions that open rather than trap. Mercy doesn't cancel order. It aligns with it. A sentence can be shortened when the harm is repaired. A fine can be redirected to a bridge the village needs. And a warning can be written with clarity that prevents the next wound. You return often to the temple, where monks receive you without ceremony. Counsels given in few words. Life ends. Therefore choose how to stand. That awareness doesn't darken your days. It sharpens them. You carry it into household leadership. Marriage steadies the house. Children widen your circle of example. Retainers look to you for a standard, and you offer it in daily rhythms. Shared meals, clear expectations, patience when learning, firmness when lines are crossed, and praise aimed at effort rather than noise. Armor maintenance becomes meditation. You unlace and relace with patient fingers, plates aligned, cords flattened, knots remembered in the body. Silk threads slide like water. Iron holds like earth. You oil what needs oil, you repair what needs repair, and in each pass you remember that protection begins long before any moment of strain. The act teaches you to meet the day prepared and unhurried. One night, patrol takes you along the river road. Distant shouts lift thin and scattered. You raise the lantern and let its halo move before you, then speak names instead of commands. A dispute over a cartwheel softens when you name the cost of a broken friendship against the price of a new peg, and a coin from your purse buys the quiet that dignity requires. The river resumes its low talk and the village sleeps. Years layer into a steady weight you carry lightly. Your name acquires a tone in other mouths. You don't add to it or chase it. Work continues, seasons turn, and the virtues you were taught keep their simple order. Courage in decisions that count, honor in what no one sees, respect across every rank, and loyalty that holds when conditions change. The world will change again. Your way of meeting it will not. The years bring a gentler pace to your stride, but your mind stays clear as winter air. Training shifts from weight to line, from speed to efficiency. You practice fewer cuts and make them cleaner. You sit longer with texts and let their edges show, and you teach more than you display. Students mirror your economy, learning that grace is in the absence of effort. It's effort arranged with care. Courage changes shape. It becomes the calm to name what others avoid. An illness acknowledged early, a limit set without apology, a succession mapped so the house won't stumble. You speak plainly about your strength and about its borders, and you sign the papers that keep burdens from falling on unready shoulders. There's no drama, only clarity that prevents harm. Honor asks for accuracy. You review records and correct your own past entries where memory softened or pride rounded a corner. A gift once kept is returned with a note that explains the standard you wish to leave. You make apologies where you spoke too quickly years ago, not as theater, but as maintenance. The same way you oil a hinge so the door will still move when you're gone. Respect becomes presence more than motion. You attend ceremonies you once led, you give the floor to younger voices, and when you bow to rivals, you hold the posture long enough to set an example that travel is possible across old divides. You listen longer than you speak, and you let silence carry points that don't need to be sharpened. Loyalty widens from oath to stewardship. You look beyond your lifespan and ask what the house needs to stand without you. Protocols are written, resources mapped, people placed where they'll thrive. Counsel is given privately, free of ornament, and shaped so it will be understood by those who have never met you. You remind the next in line that loyalty is not flattery. It's work in the right direction. Ink and paper become your late craft. You write guidance for errors that ties judgment to the ground. Weigh testimony, watch hands, ask for the quiet fact. You copy poems that hold mercy alongside duty and note where each belongs. The brush slows your pulse, and your characters reveal the modest ambitions to leave fewer knots than you found. Death is prepared for with the same plain order. Your will is sealed. Armor is offered to the shrine with a note on its care. The household is called, not to mourn early, but to understand what will happen and why. The room stays light. People know their roles. The calendar remains intact. On a late afternoon, a student visits for tea. You make one correction, elbow a finger width lower, and offer one smile that says the rest will grow from that. The bow you share is unhurried, almost level. When the final moment arrives, your breath works like tide. In and out, smaller each time, steady as paper doors in a breeze. Gratitude settles in your chest for the path that held you. The release is quiet, complete. Afterward, your life moves from practice to example. The house holds, the garden is tended. The gate remains open at dawn. The path you walked shows how courage, honor, respect, and loyalty can guide every choice without noise. If this journey resonated, continue with the next story for another clear human passage through history, and subscribe so these thoughtful portraits find you whenever you're ready to hear them.